1 week late, but it's time to take a look at G-BT08 and all the new cards that it has brought to the game. Hello and welcome everyone to the G-BT08 set breakdown. This is going to be most likely a longer video than usual, just like most set breakdowns are. So sit back, get a drink, relax, and enjoy. I don't really have a specific order that I want to cover the clans in, because I do technically play Royals, but I feel cucked by this set, so I'm not gonna prioritize them in any way. So I'm just gonna take it in whatever order I feel like, really, and we're gonna start with Link Choker, but before that, there's the SP packs. I'm sure you've already seen them, and then Amnesty got the reprint in this set, and it goes for about 10 to 15 bucks a piece now, so it's a lot less than it used to be. So that's pretty much it for the little exclusive parts of this set. The only exception being that we got the new Cray Elemental, and so this is Rain Elemental Pichan, and it has a GB1 on rearguard skill. It's an act canvas 1. Until end of turn, all the units in the same column as this unit lose resist and cannot gain resist. So it's good for some clans like Link Joker, Kagero, that kind of stuff. So cool little Cray Elemental. We pretty much get one, at least one in every set, but we'll be opening up with the Link Joker support in this video. So first off, obviously we have to take a look at the new stride, which is Genesis Dragon Flagiolet Messiah. It's kind of hard to pronounce that one, but we're going to go with Flagiolet. So, what this cool guy does is, when he attacks, you can count -1 and flip any G unit face up. If you do, for each of your face up Flagiolets in your G zone, you choose up to 2 locked cards and unlock them. And if one or more cards were unlocked with this effect, you can choose any number of locked cards, and those cards cannot be unlocked during that fighter's next end phase. If 3 or more cards were unlocked with this effect, it gets a crit. So, what's good about this is that essentially for even one, you can basically unlock your own stuff to do your own combos, and then you omega lock your opponent's stuff, which obviously is even more effective if you're playing pure messiahs, because pure messiahs don't really have that much omega locking to do. So this definitely helps out a lot, and I'm pretty sure this will be a 4-of in every messiah deck. And in terms of chaos, if they at least a 2-of, I would say, but I'm sure a lot of people are just playing it as a 4-of. And now on to Disappointment City, we have the G-Guardian for Link Joker, and honestly, most of the G-Guardians in this set are basically like jokes, like this, especially this one. Genesis Beast Destiny Guardian has a skill that when you guard with it, you choose up to 2 locked cards and unlock them. If a total of 2 cards were unlocked with this effect, this unit gets plus 10k until the end of that battle. This is bad, like, let's be honest, this is a bad G-Guardian, and nothing can save it unless, like, they change the focus of the clan. I don't know. It's just so weird. You legit have to omega lock your own stuff in order for this to be more useful, essentially. But oh my god, otherwise you have to unlock your opponent's stuff, and like you're not really, like, why would you unlock your opponent's stuff in their battle phase? Like, it's just this is a bad G-Guardian. Infinite Zero got some support, and at first I was like, why? But I guess it's okay, it's understandable. But the first one is star-vader Infinite Distarve. So nice little star repetition there. So he has a limit break skill. When his attack hits a Vanguard, you can choose up to 1 of your Infinite Zero dragons on a rearguard circle. You bind it face up, and then you ride it as stand. If you rode it, you can choose a rearguard from your opponent's front row and back row and lock them. So it basically does the same thing as the break ride would, but then you can break ride again on top of Distarve next turn, and then if you have another way to call it, you just kind of, it's pretty nice. So his other skill is on a rearguard circle. When his attack hits a Vanguard, if your Vanguard is an Infinite Zero Dragon, you can count -2 and discard a card. If you do, you bind this unit face up and then ride it as stand, so you get a break ride in the middle of the battle phase, which is, you know, pretty interesting. It's not a bad card, it's pretty interesting, but I wouldn't say that this pushes Infinite Zero to the tops, but I'm sure it would make for a fairly fun deck. Deleter's got like 2 pieces of support, and I understand the saltiness of Deleter players right now, because I'm feeling the same with Jewel Knights, but anyway, the first one is Punishment Deleter Giron. His first skill is a continuous. He gets plus 1k for each face-down card in your opponent's bind zone. This also works on your opponent's turn, so keep that in mind. And but it's only a 7k grade 2, but you know, I guess throughout, as the game goes on, it just gets more and more powerful. Second skill is, at the end of the battle, your Vanguard with the leader in his card name attacked a Vanguard. Your opponent has to choose a card from their drop zone and bind it face down. I quite like that skill. It's nice because it doesn't actually cost anything. Your Vanguard just has to attack their Vanguard. Like, imagine if the leader's got a Restanding Vanguard. That, like, this would make this card even better. So the fact that it's 7k power kind of hurts, but it's not too bad. Next up is the Star-Vader Quintet wall. So this is Nobelium. When you guard with her, you can almost 1 if your Vanguard is a Star-Vader. If you do, you call top 5 from your deck to guard in circle, and at the end of that battle, if the attack does not hit, your opponent has to choose one of their rear guards and lock it. Actually not too bad. I mean, they've been pushing these good Quintet walls pretty well lately, I would say, because like before, boy, Quintet walls were just good for those like Hyper Legion decks, but right now, they've been making them pretty good, so I would actually argue that this isn't bad. Next up, we have Drill Monk of the Fierce Foot. So the first skill is a lot bit easier to comprehend. When you call it or write it, you can lock one of your other rear guards. If you do, your opponent has to choose one of their rear guards and lock it, and then you choose another of your rear guards in the same column as that locked card and lock it. So pretty understandable. It's just like locking your own stuff for a bigger combo when you start unlocking. But the second skill is a bit like, this card isn't good, but the second skill kind of works with the G guard, but it would legit only be there for the G guard. So when it attacks the Vanguard on GB1, you can choose one of your lock cards, so you just choose it. If you do, he gets plus 2k, and then that lock card cannot be unlocked during your next end phase. So basically, it stays locked, so you can unlock it with your G Guardian and get plus 10k power. That's literally, I feel like that's the only actual plus of it. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's actually the only plus side of this card. Next up, we have a new Lady Battler, mostly here for the art, but she's Lady Battler with a Black Dwarf. At the end of the battle that she attacked the Vanguard on GB1, you can count as 1. If you do, you choose one of your other units, give it plus 5k, and lock this unit. So, not too bad because you can buff up your field, although the fact that it costs count as 1 is, like if it was free, this would be an actual really good card. But the fact that it costs count as 1 is a bit of a downside, but you can't really do too much about it. Next up, we have another piece of Infinite Zero support in Gemengar Dragon. He has a continuous, if your Vanguard is an infinite, this unit gets plus 2k for each of your opponent's locked cards in the same column as this unit, so you can get up to a total of plus 4. And then his other skill is, when your grade 3 unit with infinite in its card name is placed on Vanguard circle, you can count almost 1. If you do, you choose a unit in your opponent's back row and lock it. So, it's alright, because you can... So you combo the break right and also the new grade 3, they both have infinite, so every time you ride them, you can canvas 1 to lock a back row. It's not too bad, canvas kind of hurts, but oh well. Next up, we have another piece of Deleter support in Onagil. So it's a grade 1 this time. When you call it, if your Vang's a Deleter, it can obtain the skill that all fighters draw a card and discard one. So... nothing too amazing. It might even help out your opponent more than it does help you. Next skill is an act you can put in the soul. If your Vanguard is the leader, your opponent has to choose a card from their drop zone and bind it face down. So not too bad. I feel like the grade 2 is actually better, but yeah. Final card for Link Joker we have is Heliopause Dragon. So this is a 7k grade 1. It has a skill, once per turn GB1 Soul Blast 1. If your Vanguard is a star-vader, you choose a locked card in your opponent's back row, and that card cannot be unlocked during their next end phase. If you chose a card, Heliopause Dragon gets plus 3k, and at the end of that turn you have to put him in the soul. So I feel like he's kind of like I forgot the name of the Star-Vader, but he's the one that puts himself into soul to basically not allow your opponent's unlocking card to be unlocked. It's kind of like that, except it's kind of split up and has GB1 and Soul Blast 1 instead of Counter Blast 1, so it's kind of similar to that, I feel. So I would just compare it to that essentially. And that's actually the end of the Link Joker cards. And returning to Disappointment City, we have the Pale Moon support for this set. God, I don't know what exactly they were thinking, but I'm not sure if they were right in the head with this one. I mean, it's not that bad, but it's definitely not amazing. So, opening up, we have Carnivorous Megatrick Prana. So, let's go over her skill first before we discuss her. So, she has a Magia, act once per turn. You canvas 1 and flip any unit face up, and then just put a card from your hand into your soul. You can choose up to the same number of cards with the Magia ability from your soul as the number of face-up cards in your G-zone and call them to separate rearguard circles. At the end of that turn, if the number of face-up Pranas in your G-zone is 1 or less, you can put the units called with its effect into your soul, so you put all of them. But if you have 2 or more face-up Pranas in your G-zone, then you can choose how many of the units called with this effect you can put in your soul. The reason why it lets you choose is essentially so you can, so Magia doesn't instantly die to Diablo, because by giving you the ability to choose, you can essentially keep enough stuff on the field to survive the Diablo turn, but we all know that if Diablo really wants to end the game, it can actually just field wipe you regardless. So yeah, I feel like it was made to counter not counter Diablo, but to survive Diablo, and I think they didn't do too bad of a job with that, but that's all it does. It doesn't really do too much. It doesn't even give plus 5k. Like, the cards you call don't actually gain any pressure, which they can gain with any other stride in the game. So not in the game, but in the clan, I mean. So it's not too good of a card, but it's passable, I guess, especially for the Diablo matchup. But Diablo isn't even that popular right now, so maybe when it resurfaces, it'll be a bit more important. Next up, we have the G-Guardian called Magia. So again, I'm gonna keep saying that the G-Guardian in the set are a joke, but this one isn't as bad, I would say. But anyway, when you guard with it and your Vanguard has Magia, it gets plus 5k shield, and you choose one card from your soul, call it to your Rearguard circle, and at the end of that turn, put the unit call with this effect into your soul. And then let's just finish up the skill. If your Vanguard does not have Magia, however, you just soul charge 3. So you don't get the plus 5, it's just a 15 shield that soul charges 3 if you're playing something like Lukia, for example. Not too, like, it's good for Magia actually, because the fact that you can call in your opponent's turn can open up some pretty cool combos. But yeah, that's pretty much all you're going to be doing. You can open up combos with the Artilleryman, I believe. So that's kind of all it can do, but I'm not too happy with this one. I feel like, again, they just didn't try hard enough. Next up, Pale Moon and Dark Irregulars this set got some manga cards, and the first of the manga cards, or manga, I'm not sure how I should be pronouncing it to stay correct, but the first one is Barking Dragon Tamer. So don't expect this to be anything good, but just have a laugh. So it's an auto. When you ride it, you can cast one soul plus 1 and discard a card. If you do, you retire all of your rear guards, and then your opponent has to choose the same number of their rear guards as the number of your rear guards retired with this effect, and retire them. And then until end of turn, this unit gets plus 1k for each unit retired with this effect, and you cannot normal call. Like, it's not good, obviously. It's just there to be a meme, essentially. So, like, they could have made it just a slight bit better if you at least had a choice of what you retire from your opponent. Like, right now, your opponent can even choose what you retire, and like for Kamas 1, Soul plus 1, and retiring everything, definitely not worth it. Next up, we have Praised Evil Tamer Mireille. Mireille? Something like that. So, her first skill is a Magia. When you ride her, you can Kamas 1. If you do, choose a grade 1 or less card with Magia ability from your soul, call it to Rearguard circle, and at the end of the turn, it goes back to your soul. Second ability is when she's called from soul, she gets plus 2k if you're in GB1. Then if this unit was placed due to effect of your Magia ability, so if you call her through Magia, she gets another 2k. So 50k attacker for free, not too bad. That's kind of what makes her good. The first skill is could work as a backup grade 3, but we already have better backup grade 3s for Harry, so that's kind of the end of the line there. Next up, we have Nightmare Doll Claris, and it'd be a bit funnier if the S was capitalized, but never mind. Anyway, she's a 6k grade 1, which isn't looking too good, but her skills are kind of okay. At the beginning of the guard step of the battle, your Vanguard with Nightmare Doll and its name is attacked, you can move her from a rear guard circle to the Guardian circle, so she'll guard for 5k. And when you put into drop zone from Guardian circle and your Vanguard's on Nightmare Doll, you can put her into the soul instead, which kind of makes her okay because then you can call her out and then guard with her again and then goes back to the soul, and then you can kind of keep doing that, so you have a 5k shield that you can pretty much always rely on, more or less, as long as you can get it out from the soul, so it's not actually that bad. Next up is Red Star Dual Horn. So GB1 effect, that's the first skill, is when you call it from soul, it gets plus 2k, so it's an 11k attacker, and when it's called from soul, due to the effect of a Magia ability, you can soul blast 1. If you do, you choose a card from your soul, call it to Rearguard circle in the same column as this unit, and at the end of turn, put the unit call this effect into your soul. Not too bad because you can make a column for just one soul blast, although soul blasting 1 can hurt Pale Moon at times. So, not too bad of a card, although design-wise it's not that great. It has like a snake on its tail and shit, like I don't... Next up, I'm pretty sure this is a manga card. I'm not too sure about this, I'm pretty sure it is because it's... Every card that's memey, I just assume that it's a manga card. Anyway, at the end of your opponent's turn, if 3 or more cards were put into your damage zone during this turn, you can count plus 1. If you do, you soul charge 1 and choose up to 5 cards from your soul and call them to separate rearguard circles. So if your opponent rushes you and you take 3 damage, you can count plus 1 and soul charge 1 and get a full field. If you somehow have a full field. Though it's on Vanguard circles, like, okay, you're not really gonna call 5, are you? Next up, we have an actual fairly good card in Unicycle Tumbler. Let's not get triggered, guys. When it's called from soul on GB1, it gets plus 2k, and if it was called due to Magia ability, it gets the skill that when its attack when an attack hits the Vanguard during the battle that he attacked or boosted, you can Soul Blast 1 to countercharge 1. Not too bad, the countercharge is pretty nice, although I feel Harry doesn't really count us that much, so yeah, but it's not too bad. The last Pale card we have is Novelty Introductor. So, at the beginning of your main phase, you can put him in the Soul. If you do, you choose a grade 2 or greater card from your Soul, call it to Irregular Circle, and at the end of the turn, you put the unit called with this effect into your Soul. I feel like this could open combos, so I wanted to mention, because as I've mentioned in past set breakdowns, when there's like an obviously bad card, I will not mention it. But if I feel, sometimes I don't know that a card will like maybe make a combo in like a few months' time that people kind of spot, but I feel like, you know, this might be able to do something, so I'm just gonna mention it. Let's move on to a clan that did get good support, however, and this is Granblue. First off, we'll cover their new stride, which is Tempest Calling Pirate King Gauche, or Gouache, but I'm gonna go with Gouache for this one. So, his skill is when you stride him, you can Combo Blast 1 and Soul Blast 1 and Persona Flip. If you do, you choose up to 5 cards from your Soul and put them in your drop zone, and then choose the same number of cards from your drop zone as you put into the drop zone from your Soul. You call them to separate rearguard circles, and those units get plus 1k for each face-up card in your G-zone until end of turn. In late game, this stride is pretty insane, because not only, I mean, having 5 Soul is not gonna happen that often, but if you can build it up, that's, you know, that much better, because you can essentially go into a full field and then buff them up like hell as well, because it's only those units that get called with this effect that get the plus 1k, but I haven't yet to see this in action, but just from like theory crafting, it's very good. So definitely look out for 7C just getting stronger, which is, you know, not too surprising because any Granblue support ends up being 7C support. Next up, we have the G-Guardian. This time it's not a disappointment either, so somehow Bushwood managed to actually deliver pretty well with the Granblue support. So here we have Negro Lily, and her skill is when you guard with her, you can count plus 1 and choose one of your rear guards and retire it. If you do, you choose up to 1 normal unit with Ghost Unit's card name from your drop zone, call it to an open rearguard circle, and this unit gets plus 10k until the end of that battle. Now, I'm not too well versed in Granblue stuff, but you can check out Hunter Surge's channel. I'm pretty sure he's done some videos on like combos with Granblue and stuff, so I'm pretty sure he also did something on this G-Guard, but I know there are combos with her, so I'm just gonna leave that as an open question for you guys. Next up, we have Great Skipper Supreme Solger, which is an interesting little naming sense, but he has Hollow and a continuous GB1 if the number of cards with the Hollow ability in your drop zone is 4 or more, he gets plus 2k, and then if he's hollowed, he gets another 2k, so he's 15 on his own. When he's called or ridden, you can mill the top 2 of your deck. If you do, he gets another plus 2k. So he's kind of like a worse, I forgot what it was called, but it was a triple rare in G-BT08, the dragon. I forgot the name of it, but you probably know which one I mean. I'll probably pop it up on the screen or something. Next up, we have Rambling Shade, not exactly too good, but I felt I would mention it regardless. So, he has Hollow, and he has the skill that when he attacks a Vanguard, you can mill the top 2. If you do, he gets plus 2k, but only in rearguard circles, so it's kind of like a Ruin Shade, but not like, it's a Ruin Shade, but only on rearguard circle. So, and on top of that, when he intercepts and you have GB1, if the number of cards with a Hollow ability in your drop zone is 4 or more, he gets plus 5k shield. I feel like that skill is like I feel like I made a mistake by saying he's bad, because every time I reread him, I feel like he just gets better, because having 4 cards with Hollow in your drop zone is not hard, and the fact that you can bring this back every turn and intercept for 10 is also not bad. So he also attacks for 11, like he's actually fairly well rounded, so I wouldn't actually dismiss him as I did when I was introducing him. Next up, we have 7C's Pillager Knight Spinel. Her first skill is when your other unit with 7Cs in its card name is placed on rearguard circle from your drop zone, she gets plus 2k. So that stacks, so if you manage to call 4, she gets plus 8k. If you call 5, by minusing 1, she gets plus 10k. Next up, she has a drop zone skill. You can choose a 7Cs card from your hand and discard it, and call her to an open rearguard circle. So, fairly good card. I feel like she's actually fairly good for 7Cs. Like, again, I haven't seen any of the... I haven't really seen her, I feel, in the new 7Cs lists, but I wouldn't dismiss her either. Next up, we have Handsomeness Gyanmario. So, he has Hollow, and he has a GB1 skill. When you call him from drop zone until end of turn, he gets plus 3k, and the skill that when his attack hits a Vanguard, you can countercharge 1 and soul charge 1. Then if he's hollowed, he gets an extra plus 3k. So he's a 15k attacker. You'd be like 22 at least with some 7k boost, and you know, on hit, counter charge 1, soul charge 1 without any other cost is actually not too bad. It's not like Grand Volver who needs to counterblast in order to counter charge. So this is actually pretty, I wouldn't say it's bad. We have some new ghosties, so to combo with the G-Guard if you wish. So the first one is Carl the Ghosty. He's an 8k grade 2, which isn't the best thing, but when you split into the drop zone from your deck, you can counterblast 1 and call him to an open rearguard circle. So if you use the Ghosty strat or something to put him in the drop zone, then you can immediately call him. And next up we have Witch Doctor of the Seven Seas Rise Tutor. So he has an act, you rest him, and this is a bit of an RNG card, so don't take it too seriously, but you can put the top card of your deck into your drop zone. If that card is a 7 Seas, then you choose up to one of your other cards from your drop zone with the same grade as that card and calls an open rearguard circle. In the end of the turn, retire the unit call with this effect. Yeah, it's RNG, and the fact that you already have to have a fairly well built up drop zone in order to use them effectively. Not only do you have to top deck a 7 Seas, but you also need to get a grade that you already have in your drop zone, so yeah, it's pretty RNG. Next up we have Skeleton Assault Soldier. So he has Hollow, but he's only 6k, and he has Continuous. If he's hollowed, he gets the skill that when he's put into drop zone from rearguard circle, you can bind him face up, and then in the bind zone at the beginning of the guard step of the battle that your unit was attacking, you can call him to Guardian Circle. So we've had a lot of cards like this before, so nothing too surprising. Next up is a starter. These starters, there's a lot of them, pretty much every clan lately has gotten one, but Rookie Pirate Gina is a bit special for Granblue because her skill is you put it into the soul and then you discard a card. Now this discarded card is fairly important because by discarding a card you build up your drop zone, which is your most important resource pile, and this starter is good for the grade 1 7 Seas deck that everybody's been talking about lately. Anyway, on top of her cost, she has some more stuff going on. You look at the top card of your deck, put it on top or bottom of your deck, and draw a card. And if you have at least one face-up G unit, then you can give one of your units plus 5k, but most of the time you won't, but you just want to build up a drop zone with her, so that's kind of why I actually bothered mentioning her. And finally we have Cody the Ghosty. So he has a drop zone skill. When your other unit without Ghosty in its card name is put into drop zone from rearguard circle, you can counterblast 1, and if you do, you call Cody to an open rearguard circle. So pretty alright crit, basically just counterblast 1 to get him out there. So that's pretty much all that he does. Moving on to one of the first GR slots of the set, we're going to go on to Dark Irregulars, and we'll be opening up immediately with one Steeped in Sin Sharot. So you'll see on your screens both the SGR and the GR artworks. So his skill is a GB2 Darkness. When he attacks, you can counterblast 1. If you do, put all of your rearguards into your soul, and he gets plus 10k until end of that battle. If the number of cards in your soul is 10 or more, you retire all of your opponent's rearguards, and if the number of cards in your soul is 15 or more, until end of that battle, your opponent cannot guard with Sentinels. So no perfect guards and no quintet walls that actually possess the Sentinel ability, because recently a lot of them have not actually had it. So yeah, really good stride. Honestly, this is super good for Dark Irregulars. I feel like G has been really good for this recent patch of support. The last few sets have been so good for Dark Irregulars. It pushed them pretty far, and I mean, this card is only the beginning, so let's keep moving. Next up we have Glanzend Vampire, and this card is also a really nice one. It's a triple rare. So his first skill is a GB1 Darkness. At the end of your turn, if you have at least 6 soul, you can choose a card with Darkness ability from your hand or rearguard circles and put it into your soul. If you do, you draw a card, and if you have 15 or more soul, you can counter charge 1 and retire one of your opponent's rearguards. So very well rounded. This is actually a really good backup. This is a really good backup grade 3. You can slap it in Blade Wings, which is still, I feel, the optimal deck. Sharot if you want to suffer, but this is a really good grade 3, and honestly, I would not underestimate it. His other skill is when he's ridden or called, you can counterblast 1. If you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and you put basically up to 5 cards with Darkness ability from among them in your soul, and you put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order, and he gets plus 1k for each card put in the soul with this effect until end of turn. Also, don't forget that the first effect allows you to combo it with Enigmatic Assassin, so that way you can do Enigmatic Assassin every single turn. So super good grade 3. Honestly, I would not underestimate it. Like I keep saying, it's a very good grade 3. Next up, Dark Irregulars got one of the best perfect cards in the game when you consider what it's for. So Succubus of Avarice is not Pot of Avarice, but she's pretty damn amazing. So she has an in-soul GB1 Darkness. You can choose one of your grade 1 or less rearguards and retire it, and then return her to hand from soul. So if you soul charge her at some point throughout your mass soul charging that you do every single game, you can just pop one of your grade 1 or less rearguards and take her to hand. This is like insanely good. You can like, basically, if you're playing Blade Wings or something, you can kill one of your Dimension Creepers and then take her to hand and then refresh your deck with a Bladewing Stride, and then you're gonna soul charge the Bladewing, not the Bladewings, the Dimension Creepers again. So really, really good Perfect Guard, honestly. Like I feel like this is one of the best additions to Dark Irregulars. Next up we have Demented Executioner. Not too good of a card, but let's go over it regardless. Has an act once return darkness, count +1. If the number of cards in your soul is 6 or more, he gets +2k, and if you have 10 or more soul, he gets another +3k, so it's a 15k attacker for count +1 essentially. And when you call him, look at the top 7 and search for one card with darkness ability from among them, put it in your soul and shuffle your deck. It's not too great, but it's passable. Next up we have Edge in the Darkness. So this is a grade 1, and I really like the art of this one. Has a continuous unrearguard circle GB1 Darkness. During your turn, if the number of cards in your soul is 6 or more, he gets, I think it's a he, gets +3k. And the second skill is, if the number of cards in your soul is 10 or more, this unit gets intercept, and it can intercept from the back row. Generally an okay card. I mean, it's a 10k booster most of the time, and also being able to intercept from the back row is not too bad. And the art is really, really good. It doesn't actually matter if this is a guy or a girl, it's great art. And now comes the part of the Dark Irregular support that I kind of question, which is, why are we getting a new archetype? We have Nightmare Lands, and we're going to start with Hearthrud, and I'm going to say that right now Nightmare Land essentially sucks, but that's because they just don't have enough cards. Like, giving them support now is like, okay, you can start them, people can get the cards, but they have to hold on to them for whenever Busho decides to release more support, and God knows when Dark Irregular is going to get support again, because right now there's like the little promo pack that Japan's getting with the amazing cards that I'm not going to talk about here because it's not relevant for the set, but God knows when Nightmare Land is going to get support, but once it does, this could actually be a really, really good archetype. Anyway, we have Queen of Nightmare Land, Hearthrud. So she has a GB1, and she's kind of the card that carries the deck as well, in my opinion. So she has a GB1 skill. When she attacks or is attacked, you can count +1 and retire one of your rear guards. If you do, she gets +1k for each card with Nightmare Land in your soul. So it's kind of giving me an Amon vibe, but obviously it's good because she also powers up on your opponent's turn, but you do get more benefits if you power up on your own turn, because there's other cards we're going to go into that work off of being retired and stuff like that on your own turn. So she's the main grade 3 of the deck for now, and she's only common, so it's pretty interesting, but let's continue. We have Doom of Nightmare Land, and at first I was like, Doom, that describes how I feel about this archetype, but when I kept reading the cards after that, I was like, it's actually not too bad. So, Doom of Nightmare Land, we have a continuous GB1. If D of Nightmare Land, which is a crit, is in your soul, he gets +2k, so he's an 11k attacker. His second skill is when he attacks a Vanguard, he gets an extra +2k for each card named Doom, of Nightmare Land in your soul until end of that battle. So if you have another 3, he's gonna get +6, essentially +8, so he's be a 17k attacker on his own, which isn't too bad. Like, it's not too bad. So D of Nightmare Land, which is the crit that supports this, has the skill, is an act GB1 you can put into your soul. If you have a Vanguard with Nightmare Land in its name, you choose up to one of your units and gets +1k for each card with Nightmare Land in your soul, and until end of turn. And if the unit chosen by this effect is Doom of Nightmare Land, you draw a card. So essentially, not only are you powering up your Vanguard, you're also powering up your rear guards. Well, potentially you can if you want to, or you can just slap everything on the Vanguard. But if you power up Doom, you also get a card draw, so like the crit doesn't go to waste essentially. But you kind of want to keep this one in the soul. I mean, you want to keep everything in the soul in this deck because you want to power up like crazy. But yeah, interesting choice for a new archetype. But let's continue. Next up we have Blood Sacrifice Ruthven. I think this is also a manga card. When you call him, you can discard a card, and if you have 4 or more soul, you can draw a card and soul charge 1. So, it's nothing too great. Next up we have Succubus of Desire. Again, it's more for the art than I'm mentioning her, which is an 8k grade 2 with a continuous GB1 darkness. If the number of cards in your soul is 6 or more, she gets boost, which is okay. And the other skill that she has is when your other unit attacks, you can put it in the soul. If you do choose one of your units, they give it +2k. Second skill not so good. First one is actually passable, but it's more the art that we care about. Here comes one of the Nightmareland cards that I feel helps this archetype a lot, and this is Dormouse of Nightmareland. So he has an Act GB1, you rest him and choose one of your Vanguards, and he gets plus 1k for each Nightmareland in its card name in your soul until the end of turn. So not only are you powering up through the Vanguard skill, but also you can power up through this little guy, and then you can power up through the crit as well. So quite a lot of ways to power up in this deck. And then his second skill, which is the one that interacts with the grade 3, is when you split into the drop zone from your guard circle, you use Soul Charge 1, and if it was during your turn, you choose one of your units with Nightmareland and give it plus 4k. So has a little bit of an extra effect if you do retire him on your turn. Next up we have Vrukalakas. So his skill is at the beginning of your main phase, you can choose 2 Vrukalakas from your rearguard circle and put them into your soul. If you do, you choose one of your Vanguards and gets plus 3k and a crit until end of turn. So this is more of a, it is also a manga card, this one I know for sure, but it's pretty much just a little bit of a meme. So, and that's actually the last card for Dark Irregulars that we're going to be talking about. Moving on to Bling Bling Paladins, I'm going to try to speed up because this video is going to end up really long if I don't. We have Glorious Reigning Dragon, or as people are just calling him, GRD. So his skill is when he attacks, you can counterblast 1 and persona flip and choose 2 of your rear guards and put them on the bottom of your deck in any order. If you do, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, you search for up to the same number of cards from among them as the number of face-up cards in your G-zone. You call them to separate rear guard circles, shuffle your deck, and if you call 3 or more cards, you counter charge 1 and soul charge 1. Really well balanced effect, honestly. You essentially get, for just a persona flip, because chances are you'll be unflipping and you'll be unflipping the 1 from his own skill. You bot deck 2 to most of the time get a full field, because this is more of a late game stride. Not even late game, like nowadays mid game you're probably gonna already have at least 4, like you only need 3 face up G units before this, so you stride on your first turn, you G guard once, and then maybe you stride again or something along those lines, and there you go, you got yourself a full field. I mean, you'll be sitting at 4 there, but it's alright already. So yeah, most of the time you'll be using him as a second, I mean most of the time he'll be a third stride, I guess, but maybe second if you get a lot of heal triggers on hand. You can G-guard earlier on if you need to, but yeah, kind of depends, but he's definitely a good stride. Next up we have an actually pretty good Perfect Guard in Holy Mage Lavinia. So she has Perfect Guard effect, and then the other skill is when she's called from your deck, you can choose one of your other rear guards and put in the bottom of your deck. If you do, at the end of the turn, you return her to your hand. So, you know when there are times when you check the top 3 cards, when you're gonna Superior Call something, and you see 2 heal triggers and a Perfect Guard, no longer do you have to worry, because you can just call the Perfect Guard, and then you can put it back to your hand at the end of turn. So it's really not that bad. Next up we have the Glimmerbreath clone for Gurgrit, finally. So when he's called, you can Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 on GB1. If you do, you look at the top 3 of your deck, you search for 1 card, call it, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. If you have a Vanguard with Gurgrit, the unit called with this effect gets a plus 3k buff. Just well rounded, honestly. Like, I like this card, I think it's fine, I think it's good. Like, it helps Gurgrit, so really no complaints. Next up we have Night of Morning Light Horsa. Her skill is Rearguard Circle GB1 Unite. When your other unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, you can choose one of your other units in the same column as this unit, and that unit and this unit get plus 2k until end of turn. Not too bad. I feel like there's better rated ones out there for Gurgrit, but it's not too bad. Continuing on, we have Knight of Autumn Light Reagan and Bush. She has a continuous on the Garden Circle, so Unite, if you have a grade 4 or greater Vanguard, this unit gets plus 3k, but I'm pretty sure that G is a misprint. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be Rearguard Circle, but we'll let that slide for now, be sure. And she has Resist, so she's a 12k attacker if you're on a stride. That's essentially all she is, and she has Resist, so Denial Griffin can't actually kill her, so, you know, I guess Reagan and Bush denied the denial. Next up we have Dexkull. I like the name, so I kind of included it just for that. When you call him from deck, he gets the skill on GB1. You look at top 3 from your deck, search for 1, call it on the same Rearguard Circle that Dexkull is on, and then put the rest in the bottom of your deck in any order, and that unit gets plus 2k. It's not actually that great, but I just like the name, so I gave it a little shout out for that reason. And then we have an interesting starter that some other clans got as well, but I like the art of the Gold Paladin one. So we have Riding Rookie. His first skill is all your other rearguards in the same column as this unit get Resist. So if you call him to the side, you can do that. But if you call him to the middle, he has his Act skill where it's only available if he's in the middle column. On GB1, you can combo someone, put him in the soul to draw a card. not that great, but I felt like they were trying to be innovative by giving you, like, you have to actually think where you call him. So, kind of interesting for that reason, but he's not actually that good. Let's move on to the biggest cuckery of the set, which is Royal Paladin. Not only did I, as a Jewel Knight player, get cucked, but some other players got as well. But first, let's start with Fire Emblem Blazing Sword Fetus. So, his skills in Act once per turn. You Persona Flip and discard a card from your hand. You start your deck for a grade 2, call it your regular circle, and shuffle your deck. And if the unit has the Brave ability, you draw a card. So the discard kind of balances out. And then until end of turn, this unit gets the GB3 skill, Brave. When he attacks, if you have a face-up Fetus in your G-zone, you can choose one of your rear guards and retire it, and then choose up to 2 of your units, and they get plus 5k until end of turn. I did say opponent's rear guards, right? Because I sometimes miss out some important detail like that, but just keep in mind, it's opponent's rear guard that you retire, so it gives you ability field control. This is obviously good for Alt Mile, but I feel it's good for everything in Royal, so I'm thinking of picking some up for Jewel Knights, but I mean, like Jewel Knights don't often go to the Brave point, but it could be good in some cases, and obviously you don't get the draw from this, but you know, being able to search this into a Sword Me, and then pop something, and then get like a plus 5k buff is actually pretty good. Maybe not on, maybe if it was GB2 it'd be a bit more effective, but even with GB3 this is a pretty good stride. I actually quite like him, and like I like that it has Blazing Sword in its name. Like, come on, that's pretty good. Next up we have more Disappointment City in Vivid, Sacred, Steph, Andragius. God, like, this and the Link Joker G-Guard are actually probably the worst in the game. When you guard with it, if you have 2 or more grade 2 rear guards, this unit gets plus 10k shield. Like, okay, like this is maybe okay for Old Mile or something, but hello, like me, Mr. Jewel Knight player, I'm sitting here like, no, I don't. The Kagero players killed my field, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, what if my opponent nukes my field and then I have to G-card? Like, what? How is this gonna help me? How is this actually gonna help me? Disappointment. At least Brave got good stuff. Next up we have Full Genius. I'm not sure if a Genius actually made this support, but anyway, his first skill is a Brave GB1. When he attacks the Vanguard, he gets plus 5k for each of your grade 2 rear guards until the end of that battle. So plus 10k buff most of the time, sometimes a bit more if you've got like, I mean, you know what I mean. Like it's plus 10k and above most of the time, so actually not too bad for a budget deck. Other skill is when you ride him, you can discard a card. If you do, you search your deck for a grade 2, call it, shuffle your deck, and if the unit has the Brave ability at the end of the turn, you can put it to your hand. So really good grade 3 for a budget Brave deck, so if you just want to pick up trial decks and slap this in there, I actually recommend that. Next up we have Knight of Flight Danius. This actually sounds really Lithuanian, but let's pass. Anyway, he has a continuous skill during your turn. He gets plus 1k for each of your other units with a Brave ability, which can actually go up quite reasonably. Next skill is an act once per turn with Brave. Until the end of turn, if you counterblast 1, he gets plus 2k, and at the end of turn you can choose one of your other Regas with a Brave ability and return it to your hand. So a lot of bouncing in this Brave support, which is kind of nice to see. Next up is my disappointment in my life, essentially, which is stealing Jewel Knight Estelle. When I saw that we're getting Jewel Knight support, like we saw this one card, I was like, oh, Jewel Knight support! Oh, my favorite Royal Paladin deck, the one and only Royal Paladin deck that I actually care about is getting support? Oh my god, I can finally dust it off and play it. Guess what? Just one card. Like, what is this cuckery, Bushiroad? Like, come on! Anyway, its skill is when you guard with it, if you Vanguard a Jewel Knight, you call the same number of cards from top of your deck as the number of Jewel Knight units you have on the field. So, if you have 6, you top deck 6. If you have 1, you top deck 1. At least it doesn't cost counterblast, am I right, guys? Oh, kill me. I felt like Glenus was an interesting, the name isn't that interesting, but it's an interesting little card. He has in-deck Brave skill. He counts as a grade 2 in your deck, so I guess if you want the grade 3 out there, but he's only 10k. But anyway, when he attacks on GB1, he gets plus 4k. Nothing too great, but just that second skill, I kind of wanted to mention for that. Next we have Knight of Influence Ornas. When your other unit is placed on the same column as this unit, you can soul blast 1. If you do, he gets plus 3k, and if you are on a stride, then he gets another plus 3k. So, plus 6k for one soul blast isn't too bad. Next up we have Knight of Ceremonies Pill, and don't take pills, guys. But when she boosts a unit with a Brave ability until the end of the battle, the boosted unit gets plus 3k, and the skill that if its attack hits a Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 to draw a card. And I mean, this is only active on GB1 and Brave, so it's a 6k, so it's actually not that great, but I guess it's the art that made me want to mention her, which is kind of understandable. And now finally, for the biggest cuck of the set, Sanctuary of Light, Shooting Ray. Boy, like I could rant about this card for 5 minutes. Poor Sanctuary of Light players, they've been asking for something since BT14, and all they get is this fucking crit trigger. Oh my god, like, I think Bushiroad is actually like done. They're actually never gonna touch that archetype again in their lives, and they're like, just for the meme, they're gonna give them a crit. Like, thanks Bushiroad. Swiftly moving along to the new Nectar support, and even reading the effects of the new Nectar cards gives me a headache because of how complicated this clan is, at least in my eyes. The poor little Dimension player slash Dimension Police player slash Angel Feather player eyes. Anyway, we have Ilmatar, so this is the new stride for new Nectar, and boy does she look good. Anyway, Act 1's return, GB2, you can Combat 1 and Persona Flip, and that's actually it for the cost. I felt like there was something else. Anyway, you choose one of your units, and if that unit has the Bloom ability, you draw a card, and choose up to 6 of your units with the same name as the unit chosen with this effect, and until end of turn, they get the skill that if their attack hits a Vanguard, you can draw a card for free. And if you have 3 or more units with the Bloom ability, she gets a +1 crit. Very well balanced, because you get a draw, and this is an act, so you can first set up a field, make sure everything has the same name, for example, and then you draw a card, and then you give your entire field the possibility to draw a card on hit, and then you get a crit for whatever reason. So, good little pressure card. Honestly, this stride is really nice, and design-wise also really nice. Moving on to the G-Guardian, we have Verna. When you guard with her, you choose one of your rear guards, and she gets +5k for each of your other units with the same card name as that unit until the end of that battle. So this can potentially go up to margin, like it can either go up to a lot of power or it can not get any additional power. So again, not too great. Moving on, one of the archetypes that New Nectar got like revival support of is Arboros, actually. So going to the Arboros stride, we have Arboros Dragon Ein Sof Aur. I'm pretty sure that means something in some language. Has an act once per turn. If your heart is an Arboros, you can Soul Blast 1, and he gets the skill that when he attacks, you choose one of your rear guards, search your deck for the same card name as that one, call to your rear guard, circle and shuffle your deck. And he also gets a GB2 that all units in your front row with Arboros in its name get +5k. So it's not like all units with the same name, but just with Arboros. So you get quite a lot in this set, so it's actually quite possible to make not a competitive Arboros deck, but you know, you can make something out of it. Now, Asha got a really nice backup grade 3 in Maryuka. So she has a once per turn GB1. When your rear guard with the Bloom ability is chosen by your opponent's card effect, you can Soul Blast 1 to draw a card. Really, actually really cool, because Neo Nectar is always basically getting destroyed by just Kagero, like just stuff that targets your opponent's field all the time. So now, at least you get a card draw out of that. First Soul Blast, but you know, it's also once per turn, but it's something. Next, her Bloom effect is on Vanguard and Rearguard Circle. When your other Maryuka is placed on Rearguard Circle, you can choose one of your units, and until end of turn it gets +3k, and if the unit is named Rauni, it gets the skill that when its attack hits a Vanguard, you draw a card and Soul Charge 1. So, the fact that like Maryuka has to be placed is like, it's not just Maryuka, because we'll go into Rauni next, and Rauni immediately, her second skill, both on Rearguard Circle and in deck, she's regarded as Maryuka, so Maryuka just gets better from her. Her first skill, however, is a GB1. When your other Rauni is placed on Rearguard Circle, you choose a total of 5 of your Raunis or Maryukas on Rearguard Circle, and until end of turn, they get the skill that they get +1k for each of your units with the Bloom ability. Very, like, hard written, but essentially what it does is on GB1, all your Raunis and Maryukas get +1k for each of your other units with Bloom. So, for not other, actually, just all Bloom. So if you have a full field of Bloom, they're just gonna get a, well, essentially +6, because most of the time your Vanguard has it as well if you're striding, so yeah, pretty nice. Next up we have Warden of Arboros Idy. Really good art for an Arboros card, and her first skill is in once per turn +1. If your Vanguards are grade 3 or greater with Arboros, she gets +2k, and then you can choose one of your other rear guards, and the unit will be regarded as a unit with the same card name as this unit until end of turn. So she just copies her name, shares the Arboros name, so it's good for your stride, for example. And her other skill is when her attack hits a Vanguard, you can choose a card from your drops and put it on the bottom of your deck. If you do, you look at top 5 of your deck, search for one card with Arboros in its name, and reveal it to your opponent, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. Generally well-rounded, honestly, like for Arboros, pretty nice. And then Arboros also got a Quintet Wall, which is Sanelma, and when you guard with her, if your rank is an Arboros, you can almost 1. If you do, call top 5 to Guardian Circle, and you choose a Guardian with the same card name as the unit on your Vanguard, over your Guardian Circle from the Guardian's call with this effect, and you can return it to your hand. So, would be nice if it was after the guard step is over, but you actually have to return it while guarding. Next up, another Arboros Grade 3 and Arboros Compost Dragon. So when its attack hits a Vanguard, you can, if you have an Arboros Vanguard, you can combust 2 and draw a card for each of your rearguards with the same card name as this unit. So that's where the copying comes in a bit more, but not too great of a card. But you know, it's, if you want another backup Grade 3 that's Arboros, you can take this one. Next up we have Plume. She has two, she's not that great, but I feel like I would mention her regardless. She has a GP1 when she attacks a Vanguard, she gets +4k until the end of that battle, and her second skill is a Bloom. When your other Plume is placed on rearguard circle, you can choose one of your units, and this unit is also regarded as the same name with the same card name as that unit until, as a unit with the same name as that unit until the end of turn. God, some of these effects are like so difficultly worded for no reason. Anyway, moving on to Screen of Arboros Isla. She's basically a right chain fixer. So if you ride her on top of the Grade 0 and then the Grade 0 gets called somewhere else, you can use her act to put the Grade 0 back in the soul and search your deck for either the Grade 2 or the Grade 1 of the Arboros right chain, put it into your hand and reveal to your opponent, put it into your hand, and if the card that you put in your hand was the Grade 1 of the right chain, you can ride it as stand instead, so you can still use the right chain's effect. Next up we have some meme cards for Neo Nectar as always. So this time it's an avocado and it's Bitter Gourd in Chanpuru. I think that's an avocado. Or maybe I'm just dumb. But anyway, it has an auto bloom on GB1. When your other unit with the same card name as this unit is placed on your rearguard circle, you can retire him. If you do, you choose up to 4 of your rearguards and get +4k. It's actually not too bad. By being retired, he splits a +12k, so not too bad. And the final Neo Nectar card, and I'm speeding through these because I don't want to go up to an hour, is Salada da Familia. So, you know the Sagrada Familia? Check this one out. So, nothing too good. It's actually the same as the Gold Paladin card we talked about earlier, but I love that name. And finally, the part of this video which will probably take me up to an hour is the Genesis part. So this is arguably the best clan of this set, or well, the one clan that got the most out of this set. Now before we get into the Genesis support, we need to talk about their new keyword, which is Revelation. Revelation works like this. When a unit with the Revelation ability is placed on the specified circle, whether it's Vanguard or Rearguard or maybe Guardian, you look at the top card of your deck and you can put that card into your soul. If you do, you rest one of your Rearguards. So bear that in mind because Fenrir overwrites it and makes you forget what you just read. So, the main GR and SGR, which you'll see on the screen at the same time, of this set is Mythical Hellsky Beast Fenrir. He has 2 skills, the first of which is a GB2, which turns your Rearguard's Revelation ability to a, instead of, you know, just top deck if you soul charge rest, it changes it to when you call something, you look at the top 2, you put one in the soul, and the other one just goes back on top, so you don't actually rest anything. Pretty interesting. Next effect is an act, combust 1, soul blast 3, you can draw a card. If you do not, you can put 1 card from the top of your deck into your soul and choose one of your guys, and that unit and Fenrir both get +3k. Now this Fenrir gave birth to the combo that we all know and love by now, and I'll drop a link in the description to the first tweet that actually was like, that person discovered the combo, so I feel like they actually... I feel like they deserve the most recognition for this one, so I'll drop the tweet in the description. But, you know, this Science of Vanguard has already done an explanation of it, and so has Sieki, but I'm just gonna drop a link to the original because I feel like that's the one that deserves the most credibility. But we're gonna, as we move on throughout these cards, we're gonna see the other cards that help this combo as well. And Regalia got some support. I'm not sure how I feel about it because this stride is kind of a, it's Raging Foam Dragon all over again. But Prehistoric Regalia Earth is the stride, and she has a skill that when you stride her and you have a heart with Regalia in its name, you can combust 1 and Persona Flip. If you do, put all cards with Regalia in its card name from your drop zone into your soul, and if the number of face-up cards with Regalia in its card name in your G zone is 2 or more, until end of turn she gets a effect where you can act Soul Blast 6 and she gets +10k in a crit. Sadly, this just runs into a perfect guard, so the crit really is not that threatening, but I mean, Regalia's support is always welcome. Next up we have the G-Guardian for Genesis, which actually is not too bad. It's not too bad, so Hanasatsuki is the name of it. When you guard with it, you can choose one of your rear guards, and if you have a card with the same card name as that unit in your soul, she gets +10k until the end of that battle. So as long as you have a card in your soul with the same, that's the same as one of your rear guards, then you can get the +10k. So kind of restrictive, not as good as the Fighters Collection one because it's really hard to beat that one, but it's good in some situations. Next up, more Regalia support in Regalia of the Present Age of Erthandi. Her first skill is a once per turn act. You can soul blast 3 Regalias. You choose up to 3 units in your front row, and until end of turn, they get the skill that when their attack hits a Vanguard, you can look at the top 2 of your deck, put 1 into your hand, and put the other 1 in your soul. It's not up to 1, so you have to put 1 in your hand, and you have to put 1 in the soul. So don't forget that. Next, she has a Stride Break skill, which is kind of interesting. During your turn, when a Regalia strides on top of her, you can choose your Vanguard and give it the skill that when a card is put into your soul, you can choose the 3 of your Regalia units in the front row, and they get plus 1k each. So if you have a huge, like when you stride and you have a huge soul charging turn, for each and every card, your front row gets a plus 1. So pretty threatening, actually. So this grade 3 is actually pretty damn good. Next up, we have Savava, which was called in the anime more times than I can remember, but you know, that's not too surprising. She has Revelation, and her other skills and act once per turn on both Vanguard and Rearguard circles. On GB1, you can soul blast 3 normal units, so no triggers allowed, and she gets plus 5k. And if she's on the Vanguard circle, you draw an extra card. So in case you miss right into her, you get a card out of it. Next up, we have the Glimmer Breath clone for Fenrir, and this is Boulder Fetter Gjol. So he has Revelation, and when you call him on GB1 and your Vanguard is a Fenrir, you can counter must 1. If you do until the end of that turn, he gets plus 4k, and once per turn, when he attacks, you can soul blast 3 to draw a card. So well-rounded. You know, hopefully you don't accidentally rest him for Revelation, so make sure not to misplay, because that's gonna hurt a lot, but I'm sure nobody's actually gonna do that. Next up, we have a, well, it is a perfect, no, not a perfect card, a quintet wall, except not really quintet, with Revelation in Secret Elsie. So when you guard with her during battle that a Vanguard was attacked, choose any number of cards from your soul and put them into your drop zone, and then you call the same number of cards from the top of your deck to the Guardian Circle as you put into the drop zone. So if you put like 12, you can top deck 12. So it's not really a quintet guard, it's a bit more than that. Next up, we have Battle Maiden Kotonoha. There's a grade 3 version of her, but I'll only talk about the grade 2 because they do the exact same thing. So she has Revelation, and then the other skill is when your card is put into your soul during your turn, she gets plus 1k. Then if it was put into your soul due to the effect of a Revelation ability, she gets plus 1k additionally. So plus 2k for every soul charge is pretty damn good, especially on a Fenrir turn. So if you're going for just a straight up Revelation deck, very good card. Next up, we have Battle Maiden Toka. So her skill, she's a grade 1, and her skill is when an attack hits the Vanguard in the battle that she boosted Rearguard with a Revelation ability. You can combust 1 and choose a card from your drop zone and put it in the bottom of your deck. If you do, you choose the unit that she boosted and return it to your hand. So you can call it next turn, activate the Revelation ability, and stuff like that. Next up, we have a big helper of the infinite combo, which is Gelgia. So he's a grade 1 that has Revelation, and his skill, boy oh boy, when he's in the soul, you can put him on the bottom of your deck, you choose one of your guards to stand it, give it plus 3k, and if your Vanguard's a Fenrir, you soul charge 2, and give one of your units plus 3k. So this card works with Angelic Wiseman, which I'm sure all of you have seen by now. I'm not going to talk about him too much. When he attacks, if your Vanguard's a Genesis, you soul blast 3, he gets plus 4k. God damn, like, the combo that this makes is stupid. You just keep restanding him with Gelgia, and he just swings for insane power, and it keeps going on and on and on and on. Like, I'm not going to talk about it too much, just watch the videos in the description and you'll understand how the combo works. It's pretty insane, and people say that it doesn't happen as often as, like, everybody is stressing out that it does. Trust me, it does. Genesis goes through their deck really fast, and it's really not that difficult for them to reach this state. There's still one more card that is the biggest contributor to this combo, but we'll get to it pretty soon. Next up, another piece of Regalia support in Next Era Regalia Skuld, or Skuld. His skill is, at the end of the turn, if your Vanguard is a Regalia, and if 3 or more cards are put into your drop zone from your soul during that turn, you can choose 3 normal units with Regalia from your drop zone and put them on the bottom of your deck in any order. If you do, draw a card and soul charge 1. So I feel like there's so much going on in this skill, like I'm literally running out of breath, but that's kind of all this card does. Next up, we have a starter for Revelation in Fetter Creator Van. So when this unit is rested due to the effect of your card, you can choose one of your units and gets plus 2k until end of turn. His other skills are GB1. When your drive check reveals a normal unit, you can put him in the soul if you do draw a card. So essentially it's kind of a 50-50 because you might draw into a trigger, so it's not that great, but you know, it's more cards in your hand, so that way it is pretty good. And the final card of this set that we want to talk about is the biggest offender as well, which is yet another stand trigger. What do you know? Goddess of Sound Sleep Taro. She has Revelation, and when she's put into your drop zone from your soul, you can put her on the bottom of your deck. If you do, you stand one of your rear guards. So that Angelic Wiseman is going to be attacking for a long time. So you can see how this card and Gelgia and Angelic Wiseman and the Fenrir Stride all contribute to this infinite combo that's actually a bit more fun to watch than any of the other past infinite combos, but boy oh boy. So yeah, that's Taro, that's Genesis, and it's gonna be topping for a while. Watch out for it in regionals. It's gonna be topping for a while until Taro gets hit, because the best way to hit the infinite combo is to hit Taro, and you know, stand triggers get hit a lot these days, so I can see it happening. Everybody's already trying out the infinite combo, anybody that has Angelic Wiseman, so yeah, that's pretty much it, and that's actually the end of this set breakdown as well. So my general feelings about on this set are like kind of confused, but at the same time it holds a little bit of a special place in my heart for one little reason, in that this set released while I was in Japan, and it was really nice to go to card shops and see like secret packs of it being on sale, like the SGRs being on sale. Like, it's so nice to just go to card shops and see brand new fresh cards just on sale everywhere and people playing with them in shops. Like, it was just so nice to see, and like it kind of holds a special place in my heart. I kind of wanted to say that at the start, but I felt it was better to keep it to the end. But yeah, so this place, like, this set, I don't play anything apart from Jewel Knights technically from this set, but just because it was the newest set that released while I was in Japan kind of makes it special for me. So that's pretty much all of my little personal ramble for this set. Let me know what you guys think and which decks you're playing from this set, and I hope I did an okay job in covering all the cards as well. Sometimes I make mistakes, especially with the new Nectar ones, because I misread something and stuff like that, but hopefully it was okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me today. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.